with our own language here.
And just to
All right.
clarify, Carl, this will be recorded and we will be sharing it for anyone who registered to watch after the fact. So there may be some non-CCP coaches on.
Okay. I thought you were going to tell me to not say certain things. Okay. All right. Let's get rolling. Welcome everyone. We have a pretty tight group here live, so I had this as a note, as an ask, like let's not make today just a lecture where I'm just like speaking to a screen, but let's try to make it a dialogue, which I think it'll be a lot easier because there's, less than 20 of us live on this call. I know there'll be more people listening in, but let's just make it a dialogue. Um, we have some really smart coaches on this call with some great experiences, and I'm sure we also have some coaches that are a little bit more novice and eager to grow, eager to get experience, and just be better armed to take care of their client. So I think I know that dialogue back and forth helps both parties, right? Instead of just like we're all just looking at a Zoom screen and looking at a slide deck. So let's just make sure that we're going back and forth today. So what does that mean? That means feel free to interrupt, feel free to take yourself off mute. I will not be offended. Feel free to drop questions into the chat bot, whatever you need to do. Today, I'm going to riff on a topic that I thought quite a bit about. Candace asked me probably 2 months ago, a month or two ago, to kind of like uh, pare down, kind of like, well, what do you think are like the most important? I don't think she gave me a number, but like the most important frameworks that coaches need to think about and consider. And I'm like, man, that's a huge question. So what I did was I took a lot of time and just really thought through, like, gun to my head, what would those frameworks be? And then we put this document together, and then we're going to present on it today. But I'm not dying on this hill. I do reserve the right to evolve my thinking and change my mind in the future. So I do have to say that, and this thing is recorded, so everyone's on the same page there. So what I'm going to talk about today are three frameworks that I think every coach would be better off if they understood and implemented in their coaching practice. And a lot of this stuff, guys, I think a lot of this stuff won't be net new to most of us, but I think it might just be a little bit different of a perspective, or maybe a different take on how we've said it in the past, or even how we've taught it in CCP. Um, so let's start with setting the tone for context. So for those of you guys that have watched or listened to my discussions and our framework show, the whole idea there is to attempt to put everything into frameworks or into a system, or a system of thinking or acting, right? It's like taking a bunch of tactics, and it's like, okay, how can we build a system and a framework around these things? And it's been quite challenging, but it's been a very good thought experiment to try to systematize most things. I'm not going to say everything, but trying to systematize most things. So I think that this is important to identify the differences between systems and tactics to get started. So a framework is something that is repeatable across many scenarios and many use cases, where a tactic is something ultra specific that might work great for one person, but not so much for the next person, right? So all we're talking about at the end of the day is systems of principles. So we talk a lot about principles in CCP, and you guys have gone through that. So the goal here is to get to the root instead of reinventing the wheel with one-off tactics every time you sit down to write a training program, to consult with a client. Even kind of for you guys that have went through the profession that have gone through the professional. Remember we asked you like, hey, sit down, go through your PV MVP or your purpose, vision, mission, values, and principles, and then that will allow you to make better decisions once you're really clear on those things. Principles are the same things, right? Like we've described them as like guardrails in the past, right? Where it's like I have these guardrails. In some instances, those guardrails are a little bit wider, but our goal as coaches is to just always stay within those guardrails and never leak outside of them. So the systems and frameworks just keep us honest. Okay. So that's why I wanted to put on this slide. It's like, we want to think in frameworks over just tactics. Okay. That doesn't mean that these one-off individualized, hyper-specific and hyper-personalized tactics aren't useful when you find yourself needing to use them with clients. But if we think that way for every decision that we make, we're just going to be spinning our wheels, and we're not going to be the most efficient coaches or humans that we can be. Okay, so let's get into framework number one. Okay, so Framework number one is this idea or concept that stimulus drives adaptation. So this is like my program design framework. So there's a lot of principles and frameworks inside of this big topic of program design. But I think if we just understand this one framework really, really well, we're going to be much, much better off because of it. Okay. Stimulus drives adaptation. Okay. Stimulus drives adaptation. So what does that mean? Okay. Simply put, right, whenever we do something, we elicit a stress or a stressor. We have to recover from that stressor, and then we adapt to that stressor. Okay. Does anyone disagree with that? We have a stressor, we recover from that stressor, and then some kind of adaptation will occur. It might be a positive one, it might be a negative one, it might be a small one, it might be a large one, but some type of adaptation occurs. Okay. We all good there? You guys aren't living up to your promise of making this a dialogue. All right. So let me give a very specific example. Okay. So let's say that the stressor that we're doing is we're doing a back squat and we're doing it for 5 tough relative reps. Okay. That is the stress. Then we move on to the recovery. Okay. How are we going to recover from that? Let's say that our recovery protocol for that is we're going to take 3 days off from stressing the same pattern, same musculature, and allow the nervous system to calm down. Okay, so that's our recovery. What do we think the adaptation or adaptations are going to be? What do we think the adaptation or adaptations are going to be?
Carl's brilliant.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it, buddy. All right, someone come off mute. What do we think the adaptation is going to be? 5 tough reps in the back squat. Our recovery protocol is we took 3 days off from stressing the same pattern musculature and we allowed the nervous system to calm down. What adaptation is going to occur in this scenario?
It
It's
depends if
strength,
you're fully
strength
recovered.
gain or yeah, strength gain or be able to do more 3 days from now when you hit those back squats again. So
Boom. Yeah, right. Theoretically, yeah, theoretically, it's what Scott just said, right? Like we elicited this stress, we recovered appropriately for it for that person, and then theoretically, it's going to be nominal, guys. Like one session isn't going to we're not going to, go hit a 30 rep or 30-pound PR, right? But it's like it's going to be nominal, but some kind of adaptation occurred there. Now we start stacking that on top of each other, and we do that for 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks. Now we're starting talking about building a program, okay? But all that program is going back to is this very simple concept of we stress, we recover, and we adapt. Okay. Now we need to make sure that the stress is proper. We need to make sure that recovery is proper. And we need to make sure that the adaptation is number one, occurring, and then number two, occurring in the way that we want it to occur. For my like more old school OPEX coaches, remember we used to talk about this concept of like neuromuscular efficiency. Scott, I think you and I have had a lot of conversations on this, right? But like we used to like, you know, build someone in a 1 rep max in a movement, so a back squat, and then we'd rest a bunch, like 10 minutes, and then we go like 30x1 tempo and we'd say, okay, how many total reps can you do? And if someone could do like 3 reps, we would say, oh, they have high neuromuscular efficiency. If someone could do 10 reps, we would say, Ashley, we would say they have low neuromuscular efficiency. But what does that do? What that does is it tells us the proper stressor to get that person strong in the back squat for that person, right? Because it's all relative. If Scott's hitting 2 and Ashley's hitting 10, am I giving Ashley doubles to get her stronger in the back squat? Probably not. I'm probably giving her higher volume. So there's a lot of like individualization or personalization that occurs after we have that context, but it still goes back to this same model, stress recovery adaptation. Okay. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any questions on that? Is that like overly simplified? Because in my opinion, it goes across the board. If we want to build muscle with someone, if we want to increase motor control or improve motor control, if we want to improve someone's aerobic capacity, anaerobic capacity, aerobic base, it just goes back to this. What do you guys think?
Carl, I think it also applies to regular life too, like just regular stressors with family and challenges that people face.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, everything. Yeah, such a good point. Everything is a stressor, right? Everything is a stressor. I think we all understand that.
Yeah, I think that people tend to view stress as kind of a bad thing, but it really is kind of informative and helps you to see just like how you can learn and grow from it. Like it shouldn't be viewed as a negative thing. It should just be viewed as something that leads to adaptation, I guess, ultimately, like growth and becoming better and stronger.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, question for the group. If your goal is to improve someone's aerobic base, what kind of stress would you give them? We all recognize this, right? The power time curve. What is the appropriate stressor? Just give me a color. What is the appropriate stressor for someone, specifically if we're trying to improve their aerobic base?
Green.
Green. Yeah, exactly. Why do we not want to give blue to improve someone's aerobic base? Yeah, I know it's a simple question, a simple answer, but like let's talk it out. Why do we not want to give let's be more realistic. Why do we not want to give red? Because I think a lot of coaches are actually giving red to improve someone's aerobic base. When you see red, think hit training, right? High intensity interval stuff. Even like your lower map work, right? Map one, maybe even map two, three, and then your anaerobic stuff. Why would we not want to give red to improve someone's aerobic base when we think about recovery and adaptation specifically?
So
Not
are we looking
allowing
at this from
for
a, like a
time.
metabolic standpoint?
You tell me. I don't know. You tell me. Scott,
Yeah.
client comes to you and they're
Yep.
like, "Hey, dude, I want to improve my aerobic base, um, but I really enjoy doing intervals because they're very low intervals because they're very engaging. I love to blast the music, and I love the feeling that it gives me. So I want to do that." What would your retort be to them, if at all, if their goal was to build their aerobic base?
Yeah, so I would go with the classic quote, you know, let's see how good you can move slow before we speed you up. It depends on the client, obviously, which every answer is always it depends, but we have to build that slow aerobic base, and that aerobic base over time is going to actually speed them up just from not from a metabolic standpoint, but from a slow twitch muscle fibers, training those slow moving motor units, and it gets you ready to perform that faster work better, more efficiently, and more importantly, you're able to recover from it faster if you
Oh,
have that solid aerobic base.
yeah.
That would be
I'm
my
gonna,
answer.
I'm gonna keep going though. So,
Yeah.
Scott, I have a lot of experience doing this stuff, man. And I
Are you speaking as Carl or as the client?
no, I'm the client.
Okay.
I have a lot of experience doing this stuff, and I heard that the 4x4 Norwegian approach is going to improve my VO2 max. And I hear that when my VO2 max improves, my aerobic base will go along with that. And I actually do have a lot of experience doing tough, hard work and coming out of the other side, just feeling better doing long pieces. So explain to me why we can't just continue doing that, or you wouldn't recommend that we would continue to do that to build my aerobic base. Sorry,
Yeah.
Scott.
So
I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and no big deal because these are conversations that we have. I think I just had one like this last week. So my retort, I guess, would be, look, I understand that you like the 4x4 Norwegian method, and yes, it is proven, but like, who wrote that, right? So are you talking about collegiate D1 athletes? Are you talking about, endurance guys that ski down mountains, or are we talking about some dude from the beach, right? So, we can systematically incorporate some of that shorter aerobic work, but we're looking at like 20% of your time. Like let's push 80% of your aerobic work to this slow, not easy, not simple, but slower aerobic piece. And then let's go ahead and let's test this and let's see if we can go 80% aerobic baseline for let's say 16 weeks. Let's retest some of these 4x4s in 16 weeks and let's see if there's a response, a metabolic response, right? Or a VO2 max response. Um, you know, getting someone to agree to that's another story, but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I like that, Scott. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, like what I think we need to aim to do as well on top of that, Scott, like I thought that was a great response, is to try to really simplify things. And like if we're here talking, right, and we're like, well, what's actually happening physiologically? We can start talking about like cardiovascular efficiency, right? And it's like, well, we know what leads to better outcomes in cardiovascular efficiency. It's lower intensity, long, lots of volume aerobic work. And then we would have a conversation around like, well, what is cardiovascular efficiency really, right? It's like our heart is more efficiently pumping blood to our extremities, right? So that would be like a low barrier explanation or definition of cardiovascular efficiency. But how can we convey that message to a client, right? It's like we could start talking about things like, activities that lead to lower resting heart rates. And they're like, well, why do I care about that? It's like, oh, interesting. Um, what you'll realize is that the lower that your resting heart rate is, the more likely your cardiovascular efficiency is increased, right? Or like how hard your heart has to work to push blood to extremities. And we actually see the opposite when we do high intensity work, because high intensity work isn't really improving efficiency, it's improving volume, right? It's like we're doing really hard work and our extremities and our limbs are like out of blood and our heart is just dumping blood into our extremities so we can recover and do that work again. That's actually really important as well, but it's so different than efficiency. So it's like, what if we did some of this efficiency work and then that like bled over and increased our ability to do those 4x4s more effectively? We can recover better in that 4 minutes rest, right? So our ceiling now increases. So it's not a conversation of like one is better than the other, but it is a conversation is around one is baseline, and if you don't have that, you're kind of skipping the important stuff to do the stuff that just feels good to you, right? So I think that that is the challenge as coaches. How do we get out of our like intellectual brains and just really simplify these explanations for people? Because and you guys all know this, right? Everyone here has coached someone, right? When it clicks for a client, that's when trust increases. That's when buy-in increases. And we'll talk about coaching the why here in a moment. But that's when they're like, okay, I get it. I get why I'm doing this. I'm bought in. Let's go. Right. So when Scott says, hey, dude, we're doing 45 minutes on the bike at like this pretty slow, easy pace, tough conversational pace, they're like, oh, I know why I'm doing this. So I'm like connected, engaged instead of being like, I just want to go faster. Like this is boring. I'm wasting my time. I'm not getting better. Right? So connecting those things is so important. It's tough, but I think that's where the educator in all of us has to come out, teach people why they're doing what they're doing.
yeah.
Yeah, Tyler, absolutely. Broader base, higher the peak, like a pyramid. Okay. What sort of adaptation or adaptations should we expect from a training session like this, stacked on top of each other? Let's say this is a characteristic of a training program. Like this is a session that is characteristically connected to training programs. Someone except for Scott. What kind of adaptation or adaptations might we expect from a training program like this? Not a trick question.
Mobility, greater mobility.
Yeah, explain that.
I just am seeing like that range of motion is greater than load in a lot of this stuff that's going for full range of motion. And um,
Yeah,
with
Monica.
less
Yeah,
intensity.
yeah. Intensity is not very high. Um, maybe if, day two of this program looked the same with A1, where it was like, hey, focusing on range of motion over load, it's like trying to hit end ranges loaded. Yeah, I buy that one. Mobility. What else?
Is it endurance along with acquiring motor control?
I would say muscle endurance for sure. Motor control, not so much.
Yeah, I thought because the range of motion and the 10 reps might have probably be the reason to improve the motor control
Yep.
along with the AMRAP sets and 15 reps in the Spanish squats and the cable face pulls. Those seem to me like endurance, muscle endurance sets.
Yep, I like that. Yep, I buy that. Muscle endurance.
To
Yep.
me, it looks,
The only reason I'm saying not motor control is because speed. Speed is kind of fast here. Yep,
Yeah,
speed.
makes sense.
Yep. Tyler?
I was just gonna say, it looks like just based on some of the exercise selection that we have a client who maybe has some physical issues or pain that we're trying to like desensitize them to, get them into like a better stack position, help them improve their bend pattern. I'm seeing the goblet Spanish squat, so I'm thinking maybe they've got something going on with their knees that's been bothering them, or maybe we're trying to get them ready for um, like plyometrics or running or something like that. Um, or they could be an older individual, kind of the other side of things. We're just trying to keep them mobile and moving with really great quality. And so we're kind of seeing those higher reps. Zercher, good morning. We're seeing that controlled tempo, the pause at the bottom again. That just makes me think positional control, higher reps in the Spanish squat, lots of time under tension there. Again, I'm thinking there's got to be like maybe a history of knee stuff. Face pulls were chest supported, so they're not having to use their body to like stabilize. We're able to really focus on what's the range of motion, what's happening in their shoulders, maybe some rotator cuff stuff there. So I'm seeing like, I'm agreeing with everyone who's saying a range of motion. I'm also saying maybe there's some orthopedic stuff that we're kind of working through.
Yeah. Do you guys know like when you kind of see like people going to like psychiatrists and they like just want to sit down and have a conversation, but that psychiatrist like really digs deep and like just gets to like the meat of it. That's what Tyler just did to this training program. I appreciate that, dude. You got to the meat of it, man. That was good. Yeah, I mean, looking at the work, guys, it's like, yeah, I agree with everything that everyone said. But I would look at it and I'm like, yeah, it's probably some strength endurance as well as some hypertrophy, right? Uh, you know, hitting end ranges, focusing on, max range of motion, but also like drop sets, right? It's like we're just trying to get some extra volume, some extra work here in, right? So again, an example of, what is the stressor and how does that equal the adaptation? Like if I had a session up here, guys, and it was like A, B, and C, and it was like eight sets of three across the board, I think everyone would be like, oh, they're probably just trying to increase their strength in A and B and C, right? So we can characteristically look at any training session and kind of reverse engineer like what's the goal? What's the point? And the only reason I wanted to go through this exercise was just like when we look at our own programs, we should be able to do that, right? If the adaptation is supposed to be A, but like everyone looks at the training program and everyone's saying like B, C, and D, it's like there's probably something going on with that training program. Um, yeah, good work there, guys. Another piece here. I'm gonna roll a little bit faster. I'm rolling kind of slow. We're not even through framework one, but I'm just happy to be back. So I just want to dig deep here, guys. Okay. So a couple thoughts or considerations as we design training programs, right? And this is all under the whole, I have a stressor, I need to recover, and I need to adapt to that. Different goals demand different stimuli, right? Different goals demand different, and we just walked through that. Like, what was the stimulus that we just walked through? The stimulus was like the range of motion, the tempo, the reps, the drop sets, how many sets we're doing, all that stuff. So here are just some ideas of things that you can play with or consider when you're thinking about stimulus, right? So we're looking at rep ranges, we're looking at tempos, we're looking at rests, we're looking at frequency or how often are they doing that thing per week, and we're looking at what is the focus of the specific goal, right? So when we look like, and this is so important, guys, this is so important when understanding all these different types of adaptations or stimulus, we need to understand what we're actually trying to accomplish, right? When we're trying to get someone stronger, what are we trying to do? CNS output, right? We're trying to change the nervous system, adapt the nervous system, and we're trying to increase neural drive. How do we do that? We do that through heavy loads, right? When you look at that, the focus is not muscular fatigue, right? The focus isn't, uh, drop sets or anything like that. Those are the two main things that we're looking at when we're trying to get someone strong. If we understand that principally, when we're trying to get someone strong, that keeps us honest, guardrails. We come out of that like thinking of like, oh man, I need to make sure that they're tired when they leave. Because it's like, no, no, no. The goal is they need to increase strength. You guys can look at Candace's husband, Charlie, if you want to see someone like training to get stronger. I'm always very impressed when I see that dude train. Um, Muscle, right? What are we trying to do? We're trying to increase time under tension. We're trying to induce some kind of metabolic stress in the muscle. We're trying to increase or bias mechanical tension, just tension through the entire system, right? And then we look at like strength balance, aerobic base, aerobic capacity, all those things. They all have focuses or characteristics or like end games that we're trying to get to. And then we're just using everything in the middle, rep ranges and tempos and rest and frequency and all of those things as just drivers or manipulators to get to that stimulus. And then that brings us to levers, right? When we're designing training programs, we have levers that we can pull to progress that training program. And guys, like in most programs, none of these are right and wrong, but we go wrong when we try to pull 15 different levers in a single training program, right? And we talk about this when we take, for you guys that went through CCP when we did the breakouts and we did like the 2 weeks of avatars. It's like, I think where most people got stuck was I can build a pretty good program, but I don't know how to progress that program. It's like if we go back to this and we understand what the focus is and we understand all of these different stimuli that we have to mess with, we can probably get here and understand better what lever I'm going to pull to get to the focus, right? Volume, intensity, density, complexity, control, right? Those are all levers that you can pull, right? So if the lever is control over volume, like if you saw those two programs next to each other, control, I want to manipulate control versus I want to manipulate volume. So when I say control, think like pauses and slower tempos and all that stuff. Control versus volume. Those programs might look the exact same week one, but by week 8, they look completely different because the levers were different that were pulled. You guys with me on that? Does that make sense? So the goal there is to choose one. Choose one and focus on one lever and pull that lever over X amount of weeks. And then as you're working with clients, understand some clients are going to respond better to different levers. So I can't say principally the best lever to pull for every single person when you're trying to increase muscle mass is going to be density. It's like, no, that's probably not the case for everyone. You know how we always say like every client you're working with is a brand new n equals 1, right? It's like you're running an experiment with that person. But to understand if what you're doing works or not, you got to pull a single lever over time and then just assess and gauge results. What do we think? Any questions on that one?
Would you
Re-
pull only one of the levers, or would you do 2 or 3 if you're more experienced and you can manage to do that.
Yeah. Principally, so let's put a principle around it, Sharif. Principally, pull as few levers as you can while still getting results. Okay. I know that's not a super clear answer, but what is still acceptable in that principle, to your point, I'm really experienced. I've been working with this person for 3 years. I know them really well. I know what they respond well to. Uh, Maybe I want to increase intensity as well as control, right? And I know that they'll respond well to that. Like I can't say like, oh, dude, you should only do one, but I can say principally you should probably pull as few as possible. So I think that would be acceptable to pull a couple in those scenarios. But what I would try to do, guys, because when we pull multiple levers, what we're actually doing is we're making the program more complex. And when we make the program more complex, it's actually we might see faster results over a 6, 8 week period. But you know what's harder is continuing to see those results over time. Because once you start pulling 2, 3, 4 levers, you got to continue to do that. So like when we go through like program design strategies and we start talking about like more quote unquote advanced strategies like clusters and drops and blah 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 blah. Sometimes the question arises like, does that stuff work well with like intermediates or beginners? And the answer is like, yeah, it works great. But if you don't need to pull that lever now and you could do just straight sets for that with that person for another 2 years and see great results, keep those things in your back pocket because once you use those levers now, you got to keep stacking. You got to keep stacking onto it, right? Going back to the framework of the stressor, the recovery, and the adaptation. If the stressor is like a lot of things, right? All exercise really is adapting to a stress that we're not used to. Important sentence there, a stress that we're not used to. So if someone's used to 15 stressors at a time, you got to give them 16 to continue to adapt. And then what falls apart? The middle literally falls apart because they can't recover from it. So that's where that principle of minimal recoverable volume comes from. It's like how much can I get? How little can I give someone while they're still seeing progress and they can recover from it?
Love how simple you made it look.
Awesome. That's the goal, man. Let's make this stuff simple. It can get complex if we go down rabbit holes, which we sometimes do. Let's try to rein it back. Okay. Just a couple of things to remember here, right? Have clarity on the adaptation, right? Like what do you want the adaptation to be? Remember what we talked about in that last column, like what are the focuses of getting stronger, building muscle, improving strength balance, improving motor control, all of those things. Have clarity on the adaptation that you're trying to drive. Um, Remember that your design is eventually going to equal an outcome, right? That outcome might be the outcome that you're looking for, or that outcome might not be the outcome that you're looking for. We're not going to get into assessment today, but we always need to be assessing, right? Not just like body moving work only. I mean, like I designed week 1 and then week 2, I'm literally assessing the outcomes of week 1 and then week 3 and then week 4. And then just choose an appropriate progression. Um, I would say try to be as minimal as possible in your progression techniques. So try to be as least sexy as possible in how you design training programs and how you um, land on how you're going to progress folks, because that leaves more in the tank in future programs for that person. We could have just done 3 months of this, guys, and just did like call 1 just on framework 1 and then call 2 on framework 2. Any questions on that, guy?
Hey, we're dynamic, so we can always go deeper. I think next month we have a pretty big update to share with everyone, but after that we can. But
Yeah.
maybe that update does connect very deeply to one of your frameworks. So
Yeah, it does.
I have a question, Carl. One of the things that I tend to struggle with are clients who kind of miss workouts or they miss a week and then they kind of still want to progress the next week without revisiting their previous weeks. How do you handle that or suggest that we address that?
Yeah, teach, like literally, I mean this. Teach them this framework. Like teach them like, and use different words that connect with them, right? Like maybe we're using too nerdy of words today, but teach them like, I give you a stressor, you recover from it and you adapt. If I give you a stressor and you never did that stressor, I need to wait until you do that stressor to progress, right? Like we're putting the cart before the horse in that example. So I think it's literally just connect. And man, that's why I think it's so like I'm like more resolute on this than I've ever been. Like, guys, we have to teach people. We have to teach people these things in such a simple way that they understand, but we have to teach them.
Right.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep. And tell them to stop missing workouts too.
We're working on that still.
Pull away. Say, hey, you're only getting 2 sessions until you can prove you can be consistent with 2. I feel like Scott's probably the master at that. Scott's good at telling people just how it is, unapologetically. It might be the beard. Okay. I'm gonna roll through these just so we can get through all of them. I do want to get through all 3. Okay, so number 2. So number 1 was all connected to program design. How OPEX of us to get stuck on program design. I apologize. Number 2 is more about habits, right? Habits and behavior and lifestyle change. Okay, so the whole goal here is to connect everything back to the long game, right? Connect everything back to the long game with your clients. And I'll use this same graphic, right? Habits over prescriptions. When I say habits over prescriptions, what does that what does that mean to you guys, if anything? Like, does that resonate with you guys? Like, what do you think when I say that? Build habits with people, don't just give prescriptions. What do you guys think when I say that?
Make sure they build the one habit you prescribe before you build more habits.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, be focused
Lowest
on
hanging,
go ahead, Monica.
I just said lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. All of it, right? It's like we give prescriptions to build habits, right? Like very simple. Like I give you this lifestyle, nutrition, behavior prescription because I want you to do this forever, right? Slide 1, connect it back to the long game. I'm not saying that prescriptions are bad, but you give the prescription to build the habit instead of the other way around.
I hope you're going to go here, Carl. But like my favorite part about listening to this episode of your podcast was the way you broke down like periodizing habit prescriptions and, and
Yeah.
building one off of another. So I hope you go there.
Yeah. I asked Candace to say that. Yes, we're going there. Okay, so just some considerations with this, right? Consideration number 1, start with the behavior and not the outcome. That's almost like counterintuitive, right? Like usually we're like, what's the outcome? And let's reverse engineer. But let's think about this a little bit differently. Let's start with the behavior and not the outcome. Because when we start to think about behavior change, guys, people are actually not connected to the outcomes. They're really not. Like you'll get a person every now and again that is, but most people are not connected to the outcome. They're connected to what they have to do every single day, right? And this is where I think the industry is kind of going astray a little bit is this whole like movement around like health measures, right? Where it's just like live 20 years longer, um, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, make sure that you don't fall into the trap of type 2 diabetes, right? Like that's all good stuff, but are any of your people really connected to that? Like, does that motivate them to like do the thing day in and day out? I don't think it does until they're actually on the precipice of like type 2 diabetes. They're like, hey, dude, like I went to the doctor and they said that I'm like, a fruit snack away from type 2 diabetes. And now I'm ready to do something because I'm afraid, right? Um, So this is just a different way of looking at it, right? Starting with the behavior, not the outcome. So some less serious examples of this would be like outcome based. Hey, I want you to hit 180 grams of protein per day. Behavior based. Hey, I just want you to eat protein at every meal, right? Outcome based. I want to improve digestion. Behavior based. Hey, I want you to walk for 10 minutes after each meal. Outcome based. I want you to sleep better. Behavior based. Hey, let's try to improve our sleep hygiene by doing X, Y, and Z. Right? So it's like the outcome is still important. That's where we're trying to go, but we're getting to that outcome through specific behaviors. We're still connected to the long game, right? These behaviors are quite literally prescriptions, but we're giving these prescriptions to get to the outcome, to build the behavior, to build the habit. So it's literally the same thing, right? Like we're doing the same thing. It's just a perspective shift. It's almost like and I know we've all done this. Like, hey client, eat this many grams of carbs, this many grams of protein, and this many grams of fat per day. I'm gonna check in with you in 7 days, right? It's like, meh, that fails most of the time because they don't have a strategy, right? The behavior is the strategy. How do I get there? I get there through doing this, through doing this, through doing this. Okay, so starting with the behavior and not just the outcome. Another piece, and this goes back to how we ended framework one, coach the why. We should always coach the why. Okay, so sleeping 7 to 8 hours, right? Like yes, we all know that we should be doing those things. Your clients might know that they should be doing those things, but like coach why they should be doing those things and how it's going to affect things that they actually care about. Because they don't actually care about sleeping 7 to 8 hours, but they might care about how they feel on a daily basis, their performance at work, how improved rhythm can increase all of those things downstream, right? A habit would be moving daily, right? Now we start talking about recovery and mood and blood flow and the advantages of those things, right? Then we tell someone like, hey, I want you to drink half of your body weight in ounces of water every single day. And then we say, because, right, it can increase your cognitive function, it can increase your energy, it can increase your performance in the gym, it can increase, insert whatever's important to that person, right? So we should coach the why behind all of these things that we're giving as well in lifestyle and behavior. And to Candace's point, let's not be so siloed in our thinking. Like we have a lot of really, really smart coaches when it comes to program design. And we're starting to have a lot of really smart coaches when it comes to lifestyle design. I think we have a lot of smart coaches when it comes to understanding the whys behind lifestyle and the importance behind lifestyle. But I don't think we're up to the level yet in prescribing these things yet, lifestyle, nutrition, behavior, like we are in program design. But let's frame it the same way that we frame program design, right? Like we literally should be periodizing habits. So how can you progress more sleep? How can you progress consistent protein intake? How can you progress daily movement instead of moving 3 times per week? I'll tell you what's probably not going to work is saying, hey, you need to sleep more. You're sleeping 4 hours. I need you at 7 to 8 because that's what the literature says. So let's start doing that today. Instead, maybe let's build a plan in how we get to 7 to 8. And I know we all agree with that, but I'm just saying tactically we need to start doing it, right? And I'm not calling it like I'm sure some of you guys are actually doing that, but I'm just saying like that needs to be the norm. Let's periodize lifestyle and lifestyle prescriptions. So understand what progression can look like for behavior and lifestyle modification as well. When you guys like go in CoachRx and you build out your long-term plans, in the notes, maybe put some bullet points on how you're going to progress lifestyle in that lifestyle calendar, right? Like really think that through. And then like the progression levers, let's only pull one of these levers at a time, especially with someone that you know is going to be really difficult to be adherent to these prescriptions that you're giving them. Yeah, so RX based on the long game, right? Trying to build habits, not just trying to get people to drink more water and like log more water in CoachRx. The goal of prescribing lifestyle, this is the difference between lifestyle and exercise. The goal of prescribing lifestyle is so that you don't have to prescribe it again, right? Because once something is built as a habit, we no longer have to think about it. That's going to bring us to framework number three. But that's the goal, right? It's now a habit. Imagine how weird it would be if your clients all opened up CoachRx and it said brush your teeth in the morning. It's like, bro, like, yeah, I just do that, man. Like, I don't need you to prescribe that. It's like, yeah, now I want these other things to kind of be like that. Movement, drinking water, sleep, your rhythm, all those things. Teach, don't just prescribe, and then consider framework number one, right? Framework number one, to Monica's point, everything is a stressor that equals an adaptation. Even some of these things are stressors, right? Stressing, making sure that I'm doing X, Y, and Z on a daily basis. All right. Last piece, last framework. It's building conscious, competent clients, right? Is anyone unfamiliar with this learning model? Unconscious incompetence all the way to unconscious competence. Is anyone unfamiliar with this?
I was just going to say you left the most confusing, complicated one for the last, and we have the least amount of time.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's a good challenge though. I don't think it's that complicated actually. Um, yeah, like, and I tried to very specifically say, like, what does this actually look like? How do we know that someone's in this stage? And then what should we focus on to move them forward? Okay. So essentially this model, I'm going to jump here and then I'll jump back, right? This model says that we should aim to get people to this idea of unconscious competence. What is unconscious competence? Give me one word. What is that? What is unconscious competence? Describe it in one word. Come on.
Ignorance.
Say it again.
Ignorance.
No, competence, unconscious competence,
Yeah, unconscious.
Mastery.
mastery. That's a
Oh,
great
yeah.
one. Great word.
Nicholas, I love that, dude. I didn't, my word wasn't as good. Uh, but yeah, that's better. Dude, he just, like, he comes in clutch. He doesn't say a word for 54 minutes and then just comes in clutch. I love it.
Eating
Yeah,
breakfast and taking care of a puppy. So it's
love it. Love it. Yeah,
challenging.
mastery, but unconscious competence is quite literally a habit, right? We do it unconsciously. Right? We do it unconsciously, and then I hope we do it unconsciously because we know that we ought to do it, right? Again, going back to that simple example of brushing your teeth, right? Someone that wakes up and brushes their teeth every day, they're unconscious and they're competent in brushing. I hope they're, we've had to deal with our kids a couple times of brushing their teeth wrong, so they were unconsciously incompetent. But unconscious competent means that you do the thing every single day and you know how to do it, right? You do the thing every single day, you know how to do it, and you know that you ought to do it. Okay. So going back, there's four levels. We start with unconscious incompetence. What does it look like? I didn't know that mattered, right? I didn't know that mattered. So maybe you're teaching someone that they ought to move every single day, but they're not moving at all right now. And during that conversation that you're having with them, you're like, telling them like, hey, here are the positives of just moving and blood flow and all this stuff. In that very moment, they're moving from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence because they're still not moving during that conversation, right? Maybe you have to build that as a habit over time. But I didn't know that mattered, right? What should we focus on when we have people that are unconscious and incompetent? We should focus on teaching and creating awareness, right? Teaching and creating awareness. Then we have someone that moves to conscious incompetence. wow, I've got some work to do. That might be what your client is thinking. Wow, I've got some work to do. I'm not moving at all. Now I understand that I should be moving, and I understand the importance of that. I have some work to do. Okay. Now what you have to do is you have to offer direction. How are we going to do this? Right now we're starting to get like tactical. How are we going to do this? How are we going to build this as a daily habitual thing that you're doing? Then we have someone that's consciously competent. I know what works for me, might be what they're saying. I know what works for me. And then to add to that, I need to make sure I do that every day, right? So sticking to movement. Okay. They went from not knowing it was important to knowing it was important, and now they're starting to do it. And now they're in conscious competence where they know that it's important and they're doing it, but they have to make sure that they're doing it every single day, right? They have to make sure their calendar works for it. They have to make sure that they can squeeze it in at the end of the day if they didn't get to it. Some days they just don't get to it. They don't hit it, right? What do we have to do here? We have to reinforce success. We have to build confidence. This is quite literally, most of your clients are actually here, right? Your clients that are compliant in the things that you're giving them, they're here. But the goal is to get them to number four, which is unconscious competence. This is just what I do. This, you know what I mean? Like I just go and do this. I don't need I don't need a, prescription in CoachRx to say take a walk after lunch today. Right? It's just what I do. Okay? So what are we doing here as a coach? We're just refining that. We're there for assistance. We're high-fiving when they need high fives. And we're encouraging continued autonomy. Okay? And then this model falls within every single behavior, or every behavior falls within this model. So, thought experiment, think about that. Relative to Where are your people relative to what you're giving them, right? Are you keeping them in this like conscious incompetence, like Monica's client that doesn't do their training, right? They're consciously incompetent. They probably know they should be doing it, but they're just like, I'm just not getting to it. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, Monica. I'm not saying your clients just all miss their workouts. So yeah. Any questions, any thoughts on this one? Goal is to move people up this chain.
I would just like to say that it seems like this kind of unconscious competence comes easy for like in a lot of ways for us as coaches. And I think it's frustrating for our clients to see that something that is so habitual for us is something that they just struggle with when they are in such a conscious competence phase where they're like struggling to move from that conscious competence to the unconscious competence. Um, and so I think it just kind of requires some sensitivity. I know for me, like I sometimes find myself thinking like it just seems so simple. Like I walk every day. It's like it's just what I do. It's like what you're saying, it's what I do. And I want so badly to help them get there, but it's like I struggle to get them there, if that makes sense. Other than like modeling it, I know that sometimes that tends to really help when they kind of see that, we're doing it too and that it's doable.
Yeah, I think a really important point though is that not everyone is capable of getting there. And the reason why they're not capable of getting there, there's a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest reason is what do we talk about week one of CCP? We talk about values. Um, we talk about things that are most important to people. Um, all of those things, right? It's like if someone doesn't value moving every single day as much as you value it or we value it, but they're probably just going to be stuck on circle number three. And you know what? It's like that's why they're paying you at the end of the day, right? So it's like the North Star is to get everyone to that place, but not to stress out and bang our heads against the wall when they're not getting there. Like there's like a level of acceptance because they don't actually want to get there themselves. I'm not saying that's a negative thing, they just don't value it. There's a lot of things I don't value, and I won't get to like unconscious competence in pickleball, right? It's like I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So it's like, no offense to pickleballers. Um, but yeah, I think that's a really good point, Monica. And something that I should have actually raised. Like, not everyone's going to get there. So thanks for pointing that out. All right. I'm at time, but I have two more things. Number one, recap, understand the relationship between stimulus and adaptation, prescribe behaviors to build habits, and coach to build autonomous clients. This is autonomy at the end of the day, right? That fourth circle is autonomy. Okay. And then I'll end it with a quick invite for everyone to join us for a free masterclass. We're going to do this thing on September 15th. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through four separator pillars for coaches. So we're going to talk about positioning yourself as a coach. We're going to talk about being a really good assessor as a coach. And that goes beyond body, move, and work. We're going to talk about programming and program design and understanding those principles. And we're going to talk about building great systems around all of these things. And we're doing this as a kickoff to, I think everyone here is in the know and how we're um, reinventing our CCP program. So we're reinventing that, and we've renamed the program to the OPEX method. And what this program is built around is it's going to be 10 weeks in length, and we're going to have 30 touch points over 10 weeks, so much higher on the touch point side. Everyone will be assigned a mentor, or what we're calling an assistant instructor. Those three touch points, day number one, we're going to lecture. Day number two, we're going to actually have labs. And then day number three, we're going to do open office hours, and we're going to do that over 10 weeks. So principally, we're teaching the same things. We're teaching in a different way, and we're teaching everything inside of the framework of CoachRx. So when we do those labs, what we're doing is we're connecting everything to building out your coaching system inside of CoachRx, leveraging the OPEX principles. And what we're really focused on is teaching the principles behind the features in CoachRx and allowing people to build their systems inside of CoachRx. So yeah, we're super pumped to do that, but we're gonna kick off kind of like I don't know what you would call that, Candace. Like, we're gonna announce it publicly for the first time on this call, and this will be on the 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So if you guys can join, that would be awesome. If someone wants to drop a link to register, if we have that link ready for these guys to register for
I
that.
did. I dropped that in. And thank you so much, Monica, for calling that out. This is the first time we have shared it publicly, and you caught a typo or error that I made that I did not catch. So I will fix that. It is Monday the 15th, not Thursday the 15th in that screenshot, but I'll fix that on the link now.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Thanks for letting me talk with you guys for the last hour and 4 minutes.
Thanks, Carl. It was
Yeah.
good to have you back. I will say that. Carl and I will be co-hosting October's community call. We are for the next or for future community calls, sorry, we will be changing the date from Thursdays to Wednesdays, just because now we are doing with the OPEX method and the 3 calls. Carl will be doing labs, so we won't be able to do the call on Thursday. So it will be Wednesday, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We have updated that link for everybody. So if you're already registered for community calls, it should now show up on your calendar as Wednesday ongoing. But yeah, Carl and I are going to dig into kind of go off the frameworks that he taught today. And we're really going to dig into our new lifestyle trends and insights feature that we are launching very soon, just to help you gather all that wearable data and just help you identify patterns, help you turn that data into a systematic prescription that's just going to help your clients do what Carl was talking about, making it that unconscious competence. But just making sure that we're not using prescriptions as like set it and forget it metrics either. And how are we actually using those prescriptions to drive that behavior change? So that's what we're going to dig into. And then we'll do a full walkthrough on how to use the lifestyle trends and insights feature. So we're really excited about this feature launch. It's coming soon. We're very close. We're very excited. So I don't know, Carl, if you want to say anything about that or just leave it at that and they'll get to know soon. I know some of them are seeing it. Most of our ambassadors are, but
Yeah, I know we have a couple of you guys in the beta, so appreciate all the feedback and the screenshots that you guys are sending me over and stuff like that. We're just working really hard on the back end to just refine data and make sure that the data is showing the way that we want to show it across all of these wearables. So I appreciate that. But no, looking forward to September 15th, which is a Monday, and looking forward to October as well. But if any of you guys are interested in jumping back into that process, that CCP process, reach out, let us know, hop on a call, see what that entails. We're going to really take care of coaches that have already gone through CCP to get them re-put through the OPEX method. So yeah, let us know on that.
There is an exclusive offer for those coaches who have are already CCP coaches as well, just so you know. Janice can fill you in on that.
Cool. Awesome. Let's end it there. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Good to see you guys. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.